Hi there, everyone. Welcome in to the Campfire. I'm Ashley Bullington, your host, and this week we're going to break down 5A Division 1. It's a really good district with one of our favorite teams, and we'll introduce you to them in our film session presented by Cricket Wireless. Last year, Lancaster ran away with the district title, and they should win it again this year, but that might not be as easy as it was before. The Tigers introduced a new head coach and former Duncanville assistant Leon Paul. He replaces the highly successful Chris Gilbert, but should implement some of the Tigers' trademarks of speed, and more speed. Glenn Rice Jr. returns as quarterback, and though he'll have a new cast of receivers to throw to, we know they'll be fast. On defense, the Lancaster athleticism will show through, especially with defensive end Thomas Gort. Look for Woodrow Wilson, Brian Adams, and W.T. White to follow Lancaster in the standings like they did last year. Brian Adams features newcomer of the year, Rayvon Jackson, who solidified the quarterback position and was the district's best punter as well. At Woodrow, look for Ben Smith and Noah Calhoun to make plays from the wide receiver position. The Longhorns of W.T. White will follow with the senior leadership of quarterback Jason Salinas. Those four teams will most likely hold the district playoff spots. As for the rest of the district, the Carrollton schools of Newman Smith and R.L. Turner will push for a postseason fight along with Molina. All three of those teams have the experience to possibly sneak a spot. Samuel and Sunset will compete for wins, but should not be a major factor.
The film session is presented by Cricket Wireless. Smile, you're on Cricket.
This district has some potential to have some really good teams step up and maybe give Lancaster a little bit of trouble, but Lancaster should take that one. Now we see who leads these teams on the field and our players on the rise. Lancaster senior quarterback Glenn Rice Jr. has already put together an amazing high school career, and he's not even done yet. He's thrown for just under 5,000 yards with 63 touchdowns, and he has his whole senior year ahead of him. He's a talented dual threat who always looks to throw first before taking off, and with the athletic receivers he has again this year, look for Rice to let loose for some big-time yardage this year as well. There's a couple of quarterbacks to keep an eye on in this district, including Brian Adams' signal caller, Rayvon Jackson. He's a slender 5'9" QB, but he has all the right moves, and as a junior, could become one of the best in the district. As a sophomore last year, it took a few games to get his footing, but then he became so polished at the position, he was the district offensive newcomer of the year. At W.T. White, there's another quarterback deserving of recognition, and Jason Salinas. As a junior, he was first team all-district as he helped the Longhorns to a 6-2 district record and a playoff spot. The lefty does a good job of feeling the pressure and gets the ball off for positive yardage. Defensively, Lancaster linebacker Demarcus Piper will lead an athletic Tiger attack. Piper was a first-team all-district performer last year and will use his 4.2 speed to get around his blocker to make a play. Piper should anchor a Weibo defense that will dominate the trenches again this year. Some phenomenal players in this district, and the men who help mold them are their head coaches. In our Media Day segment, we talked to Brian Adams, head coach Sean Lawrence.
5A Division 1, and we are talking with Brian Adams, head coach Sean Lawrence. Coach, usually with this district, it's Lancaster because they're athletes, and after that, though, it's up for grabs. How do you feel about your team fighting with the other DISD teams and Carrollton teams to get for that last three spots?
I think last year showed that this is such a competitive district that any week anybody could win. You look at the top three playoff teams after Lancaster, and we all just split around each other. We beat Woodrow beat W.T. White, and it was all by 2 points. So one play here, one play there, and makes a world of difference. And then the 2 to 3 next ones that didn't make the playoffs were all tight games. So I think that's what's neat. Every game means something.
And we were talking off camera about this, but they get a little reward this year because they're going to get themselves a new weight room and some upgrades. Talk a little bit about that.
It's really amazing. The whole campus it's like $65 million worth of work being done at BA right now, from fine arts to new hallways and all that. But athletically speaking, we're getting a big 2,000 seat competition gym. We're getting new locker rooms, getting new weight room, training room, a mat room. They're updating everything else that's not new. And then at least for me, the biggest jewel in the whole thing is we're getting a turf practice field, which is big for us. Big for everybody, but it's really big for us because anytime it rained, we had to bus over to one of the stadiums, cuts into your practice time, organizational stuff. It gets you out of a routine. So moving forward, it'll be done sometime late June. So before the football season, we'll have some new turf practice field, which will be big for us.
Hey, Coach, you got me excited for 6-5A Division. I appreciate you joining me, man, and we will look forward to seeing what you put out on the field in August.
Thank you, sir.
Coach Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us on the Campfire. You can see the full interview with Coach Lawrence and Ward Fasold on Thursday in our Media Day segment on all of our social media platforms. Up next, we welcome in the one, the only Professor Diggs for our district breakdown.
All right, it's district breakdown time, 6-5A Division 1. We got Matt Diggs from theoldcoach.com. Diggsy, we are talking 6-5A, so we know we're going to be talking Lancaster.
Lancaster, across multiple programs, has lost some good head coaches, so it gives us a little pause about what's going on in Lancaster, but they lost a great head coach. We can only say good things about Chris Gilbert. Just an amazing coach, an amazing leader, and I think Lancaster will take a step back, but in this district, I don't think that step back is going to be a district. I think the step back will be statewide. We constantly talk about the tiers. Lancaster is the only team in the top 2 tiers in this district. They are going to be clearly the class of the district, and they're going to have a really salty defense. I really like Demarcus Piper, saw Longview against Lancaster, and he really impressed me.
After we're done talking about Lancaster, we still got 6-7 other teams to talk about.
Yeah.
The ISD and Carrollton type teams. Is there anything you see out of any of those teams that kind of pop out to you?
Well, we know Brian Adams and W.T. White both made the playoffs last year with Roe Wilson. And I think W.T. White and Brian Adams, I really like both coaching staffs. I really like what both teams are bringing back. Both teams are bringing back young quarterbacks and some really good speed players. So when we're talking about Brian Adams, we're talking about Rayvon Jackson and Antoine Murphy. These are 2 of the top players, all-team district caliber players, and I expect them to be all-team again this year.
Excellent. As we were talking off camera, it's kind of a race to get to that number 2 spot, because you end up in 3 and 4, you might be heading for some punishment in that playoff game. So
yeah, you don't want to see Dan Ryan in the first round or a Frisco Lone Star team, but it's going to make it very fun because it's going to make those games even more competitive. Even though they'll never directly address that with the players, those coaches meetings, they'll be talking about we got to get that number 2, and Lancaster and whoever gets that number 2 spot have very winnable games in the first round of the playoffs.
Absolutely. All right, well, that does it for 6-5A Division 1. We will talk 7-5A. We'll talk some Highland Park and Longview and next week, and I appreciate you coming on with this.
Thanks for having me.
Diggs, Wizzy, thank you so much for your insight. It was great as always. I love hearing about these different districts from around the Metroplex. And I can't wait for the 2021 season to see if any of these teams can kind of give Lancaster a run for their money. That's all we have for this week's episode of The Campfire. Throughout the week, you can check out our social media platforms for content coming out about District 6 5A Division 1 all week long. And next week, we'll be deep diving into 7 5A Division 1. But until then, I'm Ashley Billington, and thank you so much for watching The Campfire. I'll see you next time.